for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
It's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. A comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
Yo. Welcome to another episode of Head to Head with Brian Parker. I am he. And we're back for another week for talk and all of that good stuff. Let's get into it. First of all, let's say hello to one of my co-hosts, Miss Lori Parker. How you doing, Lori?
How you doing? And happy National Margarita Day.
Is it really?
It is. February 22nd is National Margarita Day. I know we're thinking about Cinco de Mayo, but I'm just saying, but it's National Margarita Day. So everybody go have a margarita if you do.
You didn't fix no damn margaritas before the call?
No, I did not. And as I was sitting here, it popped in my head. My bad. I fixed your coffee.
2 words, triple sec. Got to get some more.
There's lots of other things we need to actually replenish. So it's on the list.
If I go there. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. We are streaming live and direct on Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, Amazon Fire TV, as well as Roku TV. Hopefully I got them all. But whatever platform you're on, we thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the love. Keep it going. Make sure wherever you are that you always look up Empower TV, whether it's on Roku, Amazon Fire. If it's on YouTube, make sure that you also click the bell. Most importantly, if you're on YouTube, please make sure that, number one, you subscribe to the channel. We definitely want to be able to grow the YouTube side of it. As we will start to add more and more content to the YouTube only channel. So to be able to stay up to date and in touch with a lot of the content that we have, it may not be available on Amazon Fire and Roku, but it will be definitely available on YouTube. So please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also make sure that you share it to other people. It grows, it helps with the algorithms, it starts to appear in feeds and things like that. So if you're enjoying it, we appreciate it, but definitely make sure that you share it as well. Another thing that we like to do is make sure that we are letting people know about things that are going on either in the local community, even outside of the local community. We know advertising for small businesses a lot of times isn't an option because of the costs that are associated with it. I am here to use my platform to help you grow your business or any events that you have, being able to let folks all around the world know about your goods, services, or events. Please reach out to me so that we can figure out how we can cut a 15, 30, 45-second commercial that just gets the word out. An example of that is a commercial that I have for my real estate, which I partner with my little brother Jermaine, with Jermaine Parker Realty. And as an example, we'll do Jermaine Parker Realty followed by Sawyer Kid Lawyer, followed by your photographer friend Lori, the headshot. So go ahead and play it in that order for me.
No problem.
All right, here we go. Buying a home is one of the biggest decisions that you'll make. Here at Jermaine Parker Realty, we're here to help you navigate through that process. We know that a home is more than just a place to live. It creates memories. Here at Jermaine Parker Realty, we're here to help. Give us a call and let us get started on your journey. Introducing Sawyer, Kid Lawyer, Teacher versus Nap Time, a great book that will help your little one with reading, writing, and spelling. Coming from the authors Shanine and Sheldon Moultrie. Please check this book out and support. Thank you so much. All right. Lori, this one doesn't have any voiceover, so anytime this one pops up, just let them know about Tight Shots of Photography, a freelance photographer that does provide headshots and photos. For more information, reach out to the contact on the screen. If you need it sent to you, reach out to us and we will send it to you as well. Locally in Charlotte and the surrounding areas. So there you go with that. But if you have something that you would like to advertise as well, please let us know and we'll get it on all of our platforms to be able to help you out.
Yes, and I'm sorry that I didn't get the great voiceover work that you have to add to that for Tight Shots, but working on that so we can get it all snazzied up for you.
Anyway, so we were out last week. I honestly just needed a break. So I'm sorry y'all didn't pop up last week. Had just finished up on 6 months of double duty. Typically Wednesdays during the NFL season, we have our head-to-head sports show. Myself, Randall Hargrove, go into week by week football analysis and things like that. And we had concluded last week with the recap of the Super Bowl. We talked about the Super Bowl halftime show, all of the goings-ons around the Super Bowl and things like that. So we put a nice bow on it, and then announced that season 5 of Head to Head Sports would be coming back. We'd be running it back again come July. So the first show, I'm sorry, I always say July, August. Training camp starts in July, so my brain is always geared to that. But I believe the show is going to start on August the 7th. It's going to be a little bit different. Typically, the show would start on the 14th, but we'll actually be on a cruise at that time. So what we're going to do is start 1 week early, take a break the following week, and then run right on through the season. What we typically do is, Lori, we go through, since there are 4 different, there are 8. Let me make sure I got this right. There's 4 different conferences. No, that's not right. There's 8 conferences in the football league. Each conference has 4 teams, so for a total of 32 teams. I know I was going to get this right. So what we normally do on each show is we'll do 2 conferences per show, whether it's the NFC North, AFC South, NFC East, AFC East, all those kind of things. So each show we go through about 8 teams, break them down, what they're looking like for that year. We have our predictions of how they're going to finish in their conference. And then normally the last show is the Wednesday right before the Thursday night opening game. And then that Sunday is the full list of games. So we end it right in time for ramping up to the regular season. And on that last show, we normally come up with our Super Bowl predictions, our Player of the Year predictions, and things like that. It's a really, really good time where we get to then at the end of the year be able to look back and see how close we were to picking the champion. Neither one of us picked the champion correctly because we both thought the Cincinnati Bengals were going to be more of a contender, but once their quarterback got hurt, it kind of damaged their season. But we both did pick San Francisco to be in the Super Bowl. So we did get that half of it right. So we did see that coming, and we had a whole lot of good information for the show. So hope you guys will join us on August the 7th when Head to Head Sports with myself and Mr. Randall Hargrove come back at you for season 5. Now
Yes.
we are still in season 4 here of Head to Head with Brian Parker. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're coming back, thanks for tuning in. Glad I hadn't run you away yet. Where we talk about different things. A lot of things are tied to politics. So if you be like, Brian, why are you always talking about politics? Well, I'll be honest with you. I have found very few topics that don't have some kind of political lean into it. You can lean away from it as you discuss the topic, but there's normally things in there that are tied back into politics. You can name damn near anything, and I can tell you how politics more or less plays a part in it. And a lot of times it's ways that we may not even necessarily think about right off of the top of our heads, but they're underlying factors. And Brian, why do you always want to talk about politics? Well, because it's funny to me how there are over 350 million people in the United States of America, Lord. 350 million. Yet, when we look at it from a federal standpoint, we have a total of 535 people that represent us out for 350 million people. Between the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, there are 535 people that have a say over things like how much taxes that you're going to pay uh, at the pump, food, gas, water regulations, uh, fuel regulations on your car. Uh, so, I mean, just the price of going to school, um, unemployment benefits, child tax credits. We're talking about everything. Things that you don't think about because you're just going through the random routine part of your day over and over again, taking care of your families as you should. But we still need to make sure that the people that we send to Congress, whether it's on the federal level, whether it's on the state level, whether it's in your local communities. So I'm talking anything from assembly person to councilman to the mayor, mayor pro tem. It doesn't matter. School board. It doesn't matter. Your local judges. A lot of things start at a local level. You know, we always get geared up every 4 years and we talk about politics and we talk about who's running for president and things like that. And for a lot of people, that's the only election that they think about. And the truth of the matter is, there are so many elections that we need to participate in. And I remember being the younger guy where I didn't think about any of that, man. I'll let them people figure that out and I'll do what I got to do, not really fully understanding that those people are making decisions that impact me and how my life goes. A lot of times
Absolutely.
they try to diminish that so that you don't think about it, so that you don't vote. But when we talk about voter turnouts, Lori, being 20 and 30% of the community, that sometimes works against us because our voices are not being represented. It gives lobbyists, it gives businesses that have agendas the opportunity to sneak in and substitute our voice for theirs, their agendas, their concerns, things that they want legislatures to pass on their behalf that may or may not be to our benefit because we spend more time worried about what songs Usher didn't sing during the halftime show than how sometimes people are screwing us out of healthcare, um, different aid packages, uh, student debt, all kinds of things that we need to make sure that we're plugged into, whether it's even
Yes.
abortion, whether it's the right to choose, all those kinds of things. Are we putting in people? Do you know what their positions are, or do you just look to see if they have a D or an R beside their name? It needs to be a little bit deeper than that. Go ahead,
Yes.
Lori.
This is actually actually a really good point. And I was just sitting here and talking about, because I have up there on the Chiron that your vote matters. And here in North Carolina, they actually are in the process of, at this right now, because primary day here in North Carolina is going to be on March 5th. So we actually are in the process of early voting, and also making sure that you are able to vote where your polling place or your board of elections, and also make sure that there are some new ID rules as well to make sure that your vote is heard. So whenever you do go to vote, you have to make sure that you have a photo ID, driver's license. And also, in addition to that, if you have decided, if you've moved, please make sure that you update your polling place, and you can do that at your board of elections. So this is actually a really great time to make sure that your vote matters, and especially in the local elections. I know for myself, I actually went to vote early myself, and I actually went to the local board of elections office to make sure that I was able to vote. So if you could just actually really do that, that would be great, because again, of getting your voice heard. I guess we have a comment.
Anthony says, how do you feel about mail-in voting? And the reason I read that right now is because it was going to lead me into my second comment. Guys, Lori is absolutely right with everything that she said in regards to voting. Go to vote.org, put in your name, make sure that you show up, because there has been, and again, we have to stay in tune, because there are so many states that are trying to purge voter rolls, where you may just assume that you're on the roll and that you're eligible to vote. And a lot of times there's some shady stuff that goes on where, and it's mostly right wing stuff, y'all. I don't, I, there's a lot of outlets out there that like to both sides everything. Well, they do it too, and they do this and they do that. That's bullshit. That's what the media wants to tell you, because they don't want to hold nobody accountable. There ain't no Democratic Party out there going around trying to purge voter rolls. Democratic Party is out there trying to make voting easier for people. And to Anthony's point, mail-in voting has been boogeyman the hell out of things to try to scare people away from mail-in voting. There is absolutely nothing wrong with mail-in voting. Um, Mail-in voting is just another way of making it easier for people to vote. Why would you want to have to stand in a line for an hour, 2 hours to vote, when if you take advantage of early mail-in voting, you can just sit there and put your ballot in the mail? Um, Now you have to be very careful, because some of these disingenuous legislatures out there are trying to even make mail-in ballots harder to do, either the time that you have to do it or the procedures that you have to go through with the ballot. Some of them are wanting you to, after you seal the ballot, huh?
I mute myself. I'm sorry. There is an updated procedure for mail-in voting that you need to put in. For here in North Carolina, you have to put in a copy of your driver's license if you've asked for or requested. Yes, because that is part of, as I said, for absentee ballots, or if you're doing mail-in voting, you have for proof. As I said, when you go physically to your polling place or your board of election, and you physically are going in there to vote, you have to show your ID, which could be a driver's license, school, picture ID of that way, passport. So on your mail-in ballots, I know here they are requiring, if you're going for early voting and you're doing as mail-in ballot, you will need to put in a copy of your license as well when you mail in your ballot.
And then do they send you the shredded copy of your license back, or how do you know your license is being?
That I don't know. I just know that when I was hearing, as I said, with the many news stories that are going on about the voting and everything, and then I guess the change in with voter ID and everything, and those changes, that is something that's on there. So that is another reason why, when I was thinking, as we were coming up for looking at the calendar for early voting, when can you vote? When are the times, before our primary day? I just had made it a point to go directly to my board of election, because I can physically show that I have my license, and I'm not, and a copy of my license isn't just floating somewhere.
Anthony says, so what's the point of the voter card if you need your ID only? Well, they won't need your voter card, Anthony, because what will happen is the idea is that if you've ever gone to vote, period, when you go in there, you give them your name to begin with, and you verify your address. You'll say, "Hey, my name is Brian Parker," and they'll say, "Okay, what address do we have?" And you tell them the address, and then they send you on your way to go vote. Now, what they're wanting to do, I guess, because now my ID doesn't match my address because I've moved and I haven't changed my address on my ID. But what they want to do is discourage people that don't have IDs from voting. And people would say, "Well, Brian, what's the big deal? You need an ID to do a lot of different things." Believe it or not, there's a lot of older people out there that don't have IDs. And requiring somebody to have purchased something like an ID to be able to vote has been called discriminatory because it basically puts a tax on somebody's right to vote. Having the right to vote should require no strings attached. I shouldn't have to do that. What other people are saying is, "But Brian, if you don't do that, then there's an ability of fraud, rampant fraud, rampant fraud." To be honest with you, there's not been any instances of rampant fraud. Does fraud occur in elections? Yes. Does it occur on a scale that would change the outcome of an election? No. Here's the thing. There's a saying out there now that says projection is confession. And I'm going to tell you exactly what that means. The same people that are screaming about fraud, when fraud is found, it's normally them committing the fraud. Perfect example. When Republicans are complaining about voter fraud, and then instances of fraud are found, they're found to be Republicans that voted for Trump twice or something like that. Or one guy sat there and took his dead wife's ballot and he voted for Trump, and then he took his ballot and voted for Trump. And then when they looked at the time that she died and the time that the ballot was done, it was obvious she could not have voted, that she was already dead. It's not to say that it doesn't happen on the Democratic side as well, but it does tip largely heavily to the right-wing side, where the voter fraud normally ends up being more so Republicans than anything. It's not to say that we don't want to make sure that we have secure and fair elections. The bigger priority is making sure that everybody not only has the right to vote, but be able to vote freely and without anybody trying to encourage or discourage their votes, purge voter rolls. Purging voter rolls is normally based on the fact that, hey, I used to live in the state of New York. When I left New York, I did not call the Department of Elections and say, "Hey, I'm leaving New York and I'm moving to North Carolina, take me off the roll." What they'll do is they'll say, "This guy hasn't voted in the last couple of elections. Let's go through and make sure he's still registered in the state of New York." Once they see that you're not in the state of New York, they purge you off the roll because you're not there. But there are some places where they're just automatically purging people off of the rolls for the sake of it. And normally it's in Democratic leaning districts where they're basically trying to rig. And you always hear about Donald Trump talking about things are rigged. Things are rigged. And things are rigged a lot of times. Rigged to the point where they're trying to make sure that either you can't vote or the district you vote in has been gerrymandered.
Yes.
Perfect example in Wisconsin. It's a fairly even state as far as Democrats and Republicans. There are 8 seats in the House of Representatives in the state of Wisconsin, the U.S. House of Representatives. So you would think if it's pretty much a 50-50 state, out of those 8 seats, probably 4 of them are Democrat, 4 of them are Republican. Wrong. 6 are Republican, 2 are Democrat. Does not reflect the balance of the state, because what a lot of these states do is they will draw electoral maps, and what they'll do is they will bunch districts together that lean one way or the other. So I've seen some of these maps and it just looks like a child drew this map because it's all over the place to include a district. But they do that because what they'll do is, for example, they'll find a lot of African American communities and they'll lump them all together, even if some are on one side of town and some are on the other side of town. Haha, now y'all are in the same district. And then they'll take predominantly white neighborhoods and make those their own districts and stuff too. So that the idea, especially in the South, is to make more favorable congressional districts that lean red or Republican. And depending on who controls the legislature, which is why they do it, they continue to draw those congressional maps. So anybody can tell me the last time they looked at the congressional map and tell me why does it look the way that it looks. It doesn't, it's not one area sectioned off. That's one district, another district, another district. It's not like that. It can be all over the place. So if you haven't looked at your congressional maps before, just take a second to look at it and see how they're drawn. And you'll be able to see what I'm saying as far as they're all over the place. But what they'll do is they'll lump them together. Perfect example. New York City, where we used to live, is a blue area. So if you are a Republican and you are in Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens, I'm not putting Staten Island in there for obvious reasons. If you put those 4 boroughs in and people vote in that district, if you are a Republican, there is no chance, and I don't want to say your vote doesn't count, but if you're voting for local races and things, it ain't gonna work out too well for a Republican most of the time, unless the Democrat just done effed everything up and people are just using that as a vote of protest.
And also specific neighborhoods, because even within some of them, I know you were not including Staten Island, but I know in our former borough of Brooklyn, areas that lean more Republican or more like Bay Ridge, those types of areas, like they are there. And then also when you were speaking about the redistricting maps, and also here, because I know here in North Carolina as well, we had, and I think there's still a controversy, because as I said, that's why it's really important to make sure that you go out and you vote in this primary, because there was a new district that they created, and that has lumped into, never seen it before. So it's like, always make sure, in addition to making sure that your voice is heard, but also need to look at your congressional map. You need to look and see where things are, because things have been moved around and they're still trying to move things around as well.
They're doing that a lot of times, guys, to move representation, make it easier for certain districts to basically say, hey, it doesn't matter who we put out there, it's always going to be a Republican district. I'll give you another example of that. There's if you've talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene before, or Lauren Boebert, the district that Lauren Boebert has moved into, the 4th congressional, outside of, she was in the 3rd, now I think she's in the 4th, because she wanted an easier chance, because her 3rd congressional district has become more of a toss-up, more of a purple district. So she moved to a more Republican safe district. In my opinion, there shouldn't be any safe districts. Any district should be able to be won by anybody, regardless of their party. If a district is not set up that way, in my opinion, whether it leans Democrat or whether it leans Republican, to me is unconstitutional. And there's a lot of lawsuits out there that get made, and there's a lot of them out there right now. We have some in North Carolina that are coming up for more hearings, and they get appealed eventually up to the Supreme Court. There literally had been in place for the longest of times a Supreme Court ruling that Southern states in the South, had to be under the purview of the Department of Justice when it came to their districting maps, because basically you couldn't trust Southern states to come up with fair maps, because they were trying to gerrymander these districts to the point that they were not fair. They did not represent areas of color properly, where If you and what they look at is this, y'all. If a state is composed, and I'm gonna use this as an example, I'm gonna use even numbers: 60% white, 30% African American, um, and 10% other, and you can lump a lot of stuff into other. Then the representation of the districts should reflect the representation of the people. When you have majority of black districts, say for instance, okay, you've got 10 seats that go to Congress. That's a little high, but it could happen. You got 10 seats. Okay, well, if predominantly white districts, or I'm sorry, white folks represent 60%, then there should be predominantly white. Then it should be about 6 of those seats. Shouldn't be 8, shouldn't be 9. That's what's going on. When you got 30% representation of the African American community, and maybe you up that up to include just black and brown, period, and now you're talking about 40%, there should be that representation in the districts, and they're not, because they gerrymander the districts where they'll take black community here, black community there, black community there, and somehow work themselves into gymnastics to lump all of that into the same district, so that it doesn't matter how many people in those districts vote, they only get so much of the vote. And that's what gerrymandering is. Win Scorpion. I know who you are, Tina. Thank you. Last year, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the NCGOP efforts to redistrict areas within the state. Absolutely. Basically saying that they were unconstitutional, and that what they were basically doing is, you're not supposed to necessarily target districts by color. Now, when you're looking at composing how many seats should come into play, yes, that's going to play into it, but you're not supposed to go and just target a community and say, okay, we're going to take that community, look like they got a lot of black folk, we're going to put them over in the 3rd district. You ain't supposed to do that. But that's how they were doing their redistricting. But the problem is this, and we know the way the Supreme Court is made up right now with the 6-3 lean that they have on the conservative side. We don't want to sit there and have to depend on the Supreme Court to finally make the decisions. The other thing is this: when you appeal something to the Supreme Court, they have 2 options. They can take the case, they can offer certiorari, or they can deny the case. If they deny the case, then whatever appellate division rule that was appealed is now upheld by them not taking the case. If they take the case, they could still find that the appellate court got it right, or they could weigh in and say, no, we think that the appellate court got it wrong, and we're going to rule for, this side or that side. We really don't want to leave it up to the Supreme Court, y'all. What we really need to do is make sure that our local congressional districts are being taken care of correctly. We want to make sure that the people that we send to Congress have the right intentions, and we want to make sure that the folks that we elect to the federal benches in the state of North Carolina or whatever state you're in don't have those motives behind it where they're just trying to help with the redistricting and the gerrymandering. I don't support gerrymandering if it's Democratic or Republican. I think districts should be divided evenly because think about it this way: if districts are divided properly, then every time somebody's running for office, they really, really have to run. They have to really present themselves. But if all they have to do is slap a R or a D beside their name in unchallenged, or some districts go unchallenged because they already know they have no shot of winning. Some districts are so heavily Republican that a lot of times they'll go unchallenged with a Democratic opponent because there's no way in hell they could win. I think of districts like the one that Matt Gaetz is in. Doesn't matter if it's Matt Gaetz or you take a 40 ounce of Old English and put an R beside it. they'll vote for the 40 old English, Lori, over a real person. They will.
Why would you say old English? That's just
Yeah, I want.
I thought you were gonna now start going back to like Mad Dog 20. So stop.
Okay.
Stop.
So speaking of Mad Dogs, if you go into Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, because I would contend she's a Mad Dog. Um, if you put an R beside a bottle of Mad Dog, they would vote for the bottle Mad Dog before they voted for me. As long as I got a D beside my name and there's a bottle of Mad Dog with an R beside it, Mad Dog 2024, baby. That's what's gonna happen. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the God honest truth. There are some districts that are uh, that are insulated from being able to be elected upon, and we got to get away from that because it doesn't keep people honest. Because they know if they run opposed and they're in a certain party, uh, the chances of them winning election is already kind of baked into the system. And it shouldn't be that. We should be able to hear these people in debates, find out what their policy positions are, and understand the policy positions, y'all. Stop voting, going into the voting booths, and you don't understand policy positions. I'm not telling you to be a political science major, but understand basic. I mean, okay, y'all, basic policy. How do you feel about history being taught in schools? Well, we think parents should be able to say what kind of library books or da 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 da. No, because you got some dumbass parents that didn't finish school their damn selves. So no, what's the point of sending kids to college to get doctorates and stuff like that, so that when they do get doctorates and stuff, you still think you know more than they do? All this per parents' rights, this and parents' rights that. There's some dumbass parents out there. I know. I drive behind them every single day. There's some dumbass parents out there. Yeah, parents do need to have a certain amount of rights, but do they need to be able to say what books should and should not be in a library? Absolutely the hell not. Um, there's certain things that have a literary value. There's certain things that have an artistic value that some of these sheltered, dumb, ignorant SOBs may not be aware of, that their kids need to be exposed to. Unfortunately, that's called being woke, because being asleep and being ignorant to things, if you got somebody that starts talking about they don't want the kids to be woke, don't vote for them, because what they're saying is, I want my child to be dumber coming out of school than they were when they went in. I don't want them to be I don't want anything revealed to them. I don't want anything exposed to them. I want them to be just as ignorant and sheltered as they can possibly be, because if they start to learn about things that happen out in the world, Lori, hell, they might even sit there and turn on me and think that, I'm a bigot, I'm a racist, which you probably are. So that's how that goes. Anyway, long story short, y'all, vote, 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 learn the issues. Start small, learn what's going on in your own backyard. What kind of things are being talked about in your community? What kind of plans are being made to help the community grow and develop and to keep up with the modernization of the times and everything? Voting matters. Your vote matters. Whether you're whether you're 18 years old, whether you're 90 years old, your vote matters. And listen, we need more young people. There's a lot of things that go on in Congress that I don't agree with. Number one, House of Representatives, they vote every 2 years, so they're always running for office. Every decision they make is a calculated political decision, because they've got 2 years to run for reelection. So they're already raising money and kissing babies and hugging people and all that dumb shit. We need people that's sitting there and they run for office, yet when they go there, they don't make decisions based on how the general public feels. Perfect example. More than 70% of Americans out there support some type of a woman's right to choose. Yet most of these red states can't wait to come up with total abortion bans, or make them very restrictive, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't know about y'all, but for most women out there, a lot of women don't even know they're pregnant the first 4 weeks, They just think that their period is late.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
if you're telling them to have that, by the time they figure out what's going on, Anitra, if you tell them that they can't then make that decision because, well, we've already made it for you. It's too late. You can't do it. And if anybody tries to assist you, they can be brought up on charges. If any doctor tries to help you, they can be brought up on charges and lose their medical license. All these restrictive measures are out there. And the crazy thing is that since Roe versus Wade has been killed, all of these special elections since has gone the other way for these Republicans that want to continue to be on the wrong side of history when it comes to women's health care. All these people want to sit there and keep trying to decide for a woman instead of it being a decision between the woman and the doctor. Hey, we're going to take that decision away from the both of you, and we're going to tell you, we're going to basically mandate that you have children. If you're pregnant, we're going to mandate that you have the child. It's not going to be your decision. It's going to be our decision. Yet there are no decisions that tell a man, hey, you're going to get a vasectomy. And they may be trying to restrict contraception, but ain't nobody said a damn thing about restricting some Viagra so you can keep your thing up all night.
Well, that's true. And then also talking about the case in Alabama from the Supreme Court talking about IVF. And with that said, is as I was sitting here and after that decision was made, and then the amount of women and families that were in process, they had one woman, I think it was a news story that I watched this morning. She literally had an appointment Friday. And because they are now trying to weigh the consequences for the doctors, the offices of this one, if they're going to be charged, because again, in some states, I think in the state of Alabama, they were saying that it could be like murder or something of that. Yeah. So and that is the only way she is able to have a child is through IVF. And that option is not available in the state of Alabama now. So now she has to either start over to see if she can go to another state. So it's just very precarious situation. And that's
what they're trying to say. And again, this goes back to my point of what's the point of sending your kids to school? Then they go to grad school. They get their doctorate in a certain area where they are scientists, where they have expertise in certain areas. And scientists are telling you that at a point of conception, a zygote is not a person. They're also telling you the same thing, that a frozen egg is not a person, and you're trying to put personhood on something that's not a person. Okay.
Yes, it's a child now.
My dog at that point is more of a child than a zygote. That's just the case. Just because a sperm fertilizes an egg, that is not a person, scientifically speaking. Here's the other thing. If you have a personal opinion about abortion where you don't think abortion should be legal, again, this is my public service announcement to you. Don't ever have a damn abortion. There you go. See how that's fixed and solved? You can't make law out of things that you just don't always agree with. I don't like women that got extra long eyelashes. I can't turn that into no law. And believe me, I wish I could, because you look crazy. It looked like a whole damn blind goes down when your eyes blink. It's just totally distracting. Why your lashes gotta be so damn long? Why your nails gotta be so long? Just get you some damn swords. My God. Hell, poking people's eyes out and stuff, or trying to see you do stuff at the grocery store, trying to type up my groceries, and your nails right here start here and they go all the way out to there. My God. Can I go ban that shit, please? Please, somebody? I know that was Brian, that's over the top. We're talking about life. No, we're not. We're talking about zygotes. We're talking about frozen eggs. That is not life. Okay, y'all need to stop with that. And then here was the whole thing, Lori. When Roe versus Wade was overturned, the Dobbs decision was basically saying that the Supreme Court had overstepped and made it where they federalized something that should be a state decision. You always hear about state rights, state rights. And when it got to the states, okay, if y'all want to make it state rights, well, then you should be making those rights and those decisions based on what the consensus of your state is. And when it's put on a ballot, the people speak. But what a lot of them don't want to happen is they would rather just keep it in the legislature and make sure that it never shows up on a ballot because they take an unpopular stance and they run with it, knowing good and well that the majority of their constituents are not in favor of the laws that they are passing. But the problem is then when these sons of guns, I'm trying not to curse, run for re-election, they count on you to be disinterested enough to stay your ass at home. Voter turnout is low, and they win re-election just because people recognize the name, but they don't sit there and look at how they voted on certain issues that affect you or people that you know and or love. They are counting on you being distracted by Usher hugging up on Alicia Keys a little tight on the Super Bowl halftime show than worrying about how somebody voted on a woman's right to choose. Oh, they talked about that to death, Lori. I can't believe Usher. And then when Switch Beats ain't gonna have no problem with that. And da 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 da. I'm like, my God, damn. Alicia didn't look like she was upset. Usher looked happy. She looked happy. Let it ride, baby.
Black Twitter was on fire.
People always want to start something. So I'm gonna get off of that and just dive into that for 5 seconds, Lori. The Super Bowl halftime show. What did you think? Did Usher do his thing, or did he not give you enough in 15 minutes?
Oh no, Usher did his thing. That was the best show. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I did some chair dancing. I didn't overextend because I did appreciate the warning before the halftime show that started that said, don't be trying to do extra moves that you don't know that you can't do no more. But I thoroughly enjoyed it immensely. It was a great show, great headliner, definitely in terms of the participation, the different acts that were coming in. It was a great show.
Unfortunately, Jermaine Dupri messed it up.
Yeah, the Eddie Munster outfit, I don't know where he got the end them socks. I'm gonna sit here and just say this. When I went to high school, I had them socks because I had to wear a uniform, and I wore them little crunchy looking socks with some loafers. So when I saw him on stage, I really had a flashback about high school, and I said, where did he come up with this outfit? And who is his stylist? They need to be put away. Like, why would you sit here? He's already short. I would put him in a little short in this outfit that highlights his shortness.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was the hilarious part because it was almost like, am I being trolled? Jesus, I'm dying. I was hollering, and me and Lori. The funny part was, sometimes when we see stuff like that, we go online to Black Twitter or whatever and just see what people are saying, and they were going in. It was hilarious. We were sitting in bed just laughing and laughing and laughing. I gotta go to work, but let me just see one more. And people were just coming up with some of the craziest things. I was on the floor. It was
the internet
hilarious.
is undefeated. Internet is undefeated because that was just the memes, the this way, the actions. Everybody,
look,
news people the next day talked about that outfit.
I don't know how people don't understand that to be able to do choreographed dance moves on roller skates, that ain't easy, y'all. And Usher's in his 40s now. He might have started when he was like 10 years old. A lot of people don't remember when they remember Usher kind of came out with My Way and stuff like that. Y'all, I'm old enough to remember Usher being on Star Search with Ed McMahon
Yep.
on that competition show back in the days, and he went by Usher Raymond, and that's when he was actually starting everything. So he's been doing this a long time. And the one thing that I always caution people to understand a few things about the Super Bowl halftime show. Number one, this isn't the show for you to sit there and try to introduce your new music that ain't nobody ever heard of. That ain't what that's for. So you need to have a catalog of new music that when people hear the first 2-3 notes, they already know. Bum 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 bum. Oh yeah. Okay. They already know it's coming. You know, they hear certain songs, they hear Superstar, they hear Nice and Slow. Any of them, you hear the first couple of notes, you already know what time it is, and you ready to go ahead and drop that thing all the way down to the floor. Now you might not get it back up. Might be the last time you do it, but you're gonna have time dropping it. But so if you don't have an expansive of a catalog as Usher, who has spanned 3 decades of music, then it's going to be really hard for you. And I ain't gonna say hard because they only give you 12 minutes. They gave him 15. They extended it for him. But I was glad to see that Usher implemented a lot of Atlanta into his show, having whether it was Jackson State Marching Band representing the HBCU, the different choirs and the different things that he had out there, all related to the city of Atlanta. Jermaine Dupri from Atlanta, Ludacris from Atlanta. I don't know if Her is from Atlanta or not, but Her came out there as well. So all of that was good, paying homage to Michael Jackson and Prince with some subtleties of the outfits. One subtlety that I missed out on was when he was in roller skates and he had the blue and the black. That was a nod to Black Panther.
Yes. I was like, with seeing that as well, that was the nod, and it was just an amazing show.
So trying to put all those little eggs in there too were just really, really good to be able to go back, look at it, and see that, okay. And here's the other thing, y'all. If he left you wanting more, that was the point, for 2 reasons. Number one, he only gets 15 minutes. Number two, the NFL does not pay him for his performance, nor do they pay anyone that does the halftime show for the Super Bowl. That is all on the player's dime. Apple Music does contribute to the show, but as far as a payment for the performance, that does not happen. So it's all on that person's dime. So all of y'all that's sitting there talking about, man, I would love to see Metallica or Def Leppard or somebody else do that. First thing you need to ask yourself is, well, can they pay for it? Can they pay for all the production? Now I ain't gonna question their catalog, but and then the other part of it is, does it reach a wider audience, or is it going to reach a limited audience? So we got to keep that in context too when we're talking about the Super Bowl halftime show. So.
One thing I do want to say is I really appreciated, in addition to Usher, but even on the show for the Super Bowl itself, they had Reba McEntire. Like, it was a great mix of people and mix of things. Where they had Andrew Day. Again, it was just well put together. So as I said, I thoroughly enjoyed that part, and even watching the football action in between as well.
Now, speaking of Andrew Day, the NFL decided after the whole George Floyd thing went down, beginning in front of some of the Super Bowl, in front of the football games, they always did America the Beautiful, and they did the Star Spangled Banner. They decided to add a third song, which was Lift Every Voice and Sing. And what happened was, once white people found out that that was called the Black National Anthem, they lost their damn minds. Now, if the NFL would have just said, we're going to have such and such perform Lift Every Voice and Sing, probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal. Why are we singing the extra song? Oh, well, it's a performance, it's entertainment. They would have left it alone. Once white folk found out that lift area voice and sing is basically called the de facto black national anthem, boy, the white folks lost their mind. Why? There's only one national anthem.
And I actually have a question for you, Brian. Did you have a chance to watch also as well with the commercials and a lot of prayer, a lot of churchy things that was going on some of the commercials? I was just like sitting here like, but y'all are talking about the Black national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other things, and I mean the commercials were great, but it was just like, I just love it when how people pick and choose what they want to sit there and to focus on when there's bigger things that are happening in the world.
So here's the problem though, Lori. When you hear people say, make America great again, understand that they're talking about times when having a black national anthem would be a part of anything. This goes back to the whole thing of Black Lives Matter. Why are you saying that? All lives matter. It's that thing of saying, why should we have to have a black national anthem as opposed to the national anthem is the national anthem? Okay. This song was created during civil rights time when, as much as people want to keep forgetting history, all people were not seen as being equal. People keep trying to forget the history of this country. Yeah, Brian, but we got to move on. We got to move on together. Yeah, we do. But we've always given a nod to the past. If not, we wouldn't sing the damn national anthem. It gives a nod to the past. If you want to move on with a future song, then come up with a new national anthem that is encompassing of everyone. Oh, well, we
Maybe
can't do
Little
that
John will be on it.
because this is traditional and history and we can't mess that up. Okay, then just shut your ass up for 3 minutes. It ain't gonna kill you. But they go into that. Speaking of the commercials, I will say that the Ben Affleck Dunkin' Donuts commercial tripped me out. Him getting Matt Damon to just try to be that loyal friend and even bringing TB12 into it and Jack Harlow in it and Fat Joe in it with Jennifer Lopez was absolutely hilarious. There were some other commercials and you alluded to the fact that there were some other ones. What really got me, Lori, is when people say make America great again, and when these so-called white nationalists or Christian nationalists see a commercial about Jesus washing people's feet, and it triggers them. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna just say this. Can I just say this, Lord?
Yes, you can.
Because I'm gonna step on some Christians' toes. If you really a Christian and an ad about some Jesus washing people's feet offends you, take your fake ass Christian self somewhere. Yeah, I don't know who y'all thought Jesus was. Number one, white people, I hope y'all sitting down. He wasn't white.
And especially in the part of the world that he was.
How the hell you get raised up in Africa and think that mug gonna be white with blonde hair and blue eyes? Get the hell up out of here. He might not have been no Wesley Snipes black, but damn it, the dude has some brown and black in him. That's period. That's undebatable. Y'all might want to claim Santa Claus as white, and I ain't got nothing for you on that, except the fact that I ain't never seen no white man shimmy down nobody's chimney trying to break in their house. But that's a whole nother story. But as far as Jesus, he's colored, y'all. Y'all need to get over that. The second thing is the Bible that I've read before did mention the fact that Jesus did wash people's feet.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sign of humility.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need to be more humble about things. Maybe you Christian nationalists need to understand that you need to stop hijacking the word Christian in your crusade to sit there and whitewash history, whitewash this country, and make this country great again by making it whiter again. Did I say it, Lori?
You did say it. And I will say, not taking away from that commercial, but what I thought was a very big surprise was the commercial that, on the political sense, is I saw the commercial for Robert Kennedy running for president, and I had to stop because I thought it was a joke. But he actually paid for time, and he paid for the time.
No. It was a joke. It was.
That was the craziest thing, and I'm like, because I think it followed the commercial where they were washing the feet, so it just was like that commercial, and then I'm like, oh wow, that's really great, and everything else, and then I see this Robert Kennedy commercial.
Yeah. I personally love the washing feet commercials and things like that.
Yes, it was beautiful.
Because it's always, and people say, yeah, Brian, but when I watch a football game, all I want to think about is football and this and that and the other. I don't want to have to think about political stuff and this and that and the other. If your ability to focus on a football game can be distracted by somebody talking about Jesus washing somebody's feet, that says a lot about you. Now I understand why you don't want your kids to be woke, because your sleepy ass can't wake up your damn self.
And to your point, if you're talking about that, and even if you're talking about the NFL itself, because we pay homage to our military, we have the flag out, there's a whole bunch of things that we can necessarily, like as I said, if I want to be like, I just want to sit there and focus on the gridiron, and I'm focused on my two teams, why we have this whole thing about, again, the songs, we have the flag coming out, then we have the flyovers, like, and you're honoring the military. Like, why do you even do that? Because then you have a problem with the washing of the feet commercial. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, it ain't just you. Yeah, it's funny to see what triggers people. It shouldn't bother you. I mean, my God, if you're a Christian, you should be like, man, I'd love to see more of that on TV. It's funny how, because the first thing these same said people will be like, they took prayer out of the school system. They don't say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore in the schools. But some commercial of somebody getting their damn corns getting a little wet drives y'all insane and crazy. Come on now.
Or the commercial that they have of different couples. Some are same sex, some are just a man and a woman. Like that one, the love is kind. Like, again, they just, and that's where they go on the picking and choosing of things. Be consistent.
These are, and are they social messages? Yes. But social messages are human messages. Talking about, y'all talk all this crap about all lives matter. We don't need a black national anthem because the national anthem is encompassing of everybody. Yet when you see commercials that encompass everybody, it drives you crazy. Which one is it? Like, make up your mind. Stop being outraged at stuff that you normally say, hey, we need more of, and then when it's there, oh, it's woke.
Yes, can we be outraged about prices of food, agriculture, farming, this one? There's other things, lack of space in schools, books, this one, how you pay our teachers. Like, there's a bunch of things that we can be outraged about.
Yep.
But they choose not to, but they're gonna pick this on a game. But again, it's just sometimes, as you had said, it's kind of like a smoke screen. I just want you to kind of sit here and be over here, but I'm really doing this.
Right. Yeah. Don't look here and all that kind of thing. Absolutely. All right. Changing gears. Lori, over the last couple of weeks, months, We know that Donald Trump has had plenty of legal issues, and we're going to get more and more into them as they go because we all understand that Donald Trump's main legal strategy is to delay. He has this grand Hail Mary scheme that if he can only run out the clock long enough to get back in the White House, he'll be protected from prosecution. And he comes up with all these different excuses. Why didn't they prosecute me 3 years ago? Well, we'll tell you, Donald. Part of it was Merrick Garland did drag his feet because he was so worried that if he did anything instantly after you left office, it would look political. And I kept screaming, it doesn't matter. They're going to say it's political anyway. Do what you got to do. And he drug his feet. He finally got Jack Smith in after that amount of time. Jack Smith basically brought charges less than a year after he was appointed special counsel, which is fairly quick, in spite of the fact that Trump still did everything he could to slow that down, meaning opposing, turning over this, appealing this decision. And every time you appeal a decision and you got to wait for an appellate to decide on it, there is no timeline for these decisions. When you send things to be decided to the Supreme Court, they have schedules and they can say, well, we'll put it in this schedule. We'll do it regular order where it just falls into a certain schedule, or they can do things on an expedited basis. The Supreme Court moves as fast or as slow as they wish. There is nothing that will make them say, hey, y'all, this is really important. We need y'all to take a look at this. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way for the Supreme Court. It doesn't even work that way for appellate courts. They can take some appeals can take months or even years. And that's what he banks on. So then he turns right back around to his supporters and says, it's interference because they could have done this a long time ago and they chose not to. No, your ass kept choosing to sit there and hide the ball and keep playing these games. He know what he's doing. So now he has 4 criminal cases against him. 2 are in state courts in Fulton County, Georgia, and the other is in New York City. Then he has 2 federal cases. One is in Florida and the other one is in Washington, D.C. Now, the thing is that Trump could either pardon himself or more easily for the federal cases, if he were to be reelected president, he could simply just tell his appointed attorney general to drop the cases and they would just go away magically. What he cannot pardon and what he cannot totally avoid are the state cases. You can't pardon yourself from a state case. So those are the cases that he really is trying to delay, because even if he's president, and then even if he's eventually convicted, if he's convicted after he's already president and in the White House, well, it's not like they're going to sit there and bring the U.S. Marshals up to 1600 Pennsylvania and drag his ass to Fulton County, Georgia, and make him serve his sentence. What they're going to say is, well, we'll delay the prosecution or whatever the case may be.
We'll get you after you're done. We'll get you.
What he's hoping for is that he ain't never going to leave.
Yes, because he wanted to be a dictator on the first day.
Correct.
First day.
Correct. Trump has a fascination with the fact that the Constitution don't apply to him. And he wants to circumvent the Constitution this time and never leave office. People think that's far-fetched. They think that's hyperbolic. But I'm telling you, the man is trying to figure out. And listen, if he can, how far-fetched is it when all Republicans have said since I started paying attention to politics is the border, the border, the border, the border. Caravan, 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 caravan. Migrants are coming. They're gonna fuck your wife. They're gonna, they're gonna, take your wife and your kids. They're gonna take your jobs. They're gonna replace you. They're gonna become Democrats, and they're gonna change this country. And we need to make America great again. All they ever said was the border, the border, the border, the border. right?
Absolutely.
So Democrats sit there and basically bite their tongues and say, if this will help motivate y'all to give us aid for Ukraine and Israel, we will concede on some of your hilarious, ineffective, dumbass ideas for the border. We'll give you damn near everything that you've asked for on a silver platter.
And wasn't it crafted by a Republican?
Yeah, James Langford, senator from Oklahoma, very conservative.
Yes.
Negotiated with Alejandro Mayorkas, which I'll get into that because that's even more hilarious. Alejandro Mayorkas of Homeland Security, and Kirsten Sinema and Chris Murphy, I believe it was, Senator.
Yes, Chris Murphy. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he negotiated this, and this ain't the first time Republicans have sat there and sent somebody to negotiate, and then they just left him hanging. But Langford got the best deal in the world. Most pundits would tell you they've never seen a border deal like that, thought it would never happen. Even Langford went on the Fox shows and said, man, 6 months ago, if I told y'all I could got y'all all of this, you wouldn't even believe it could happen under a Democratic administration. And that's true. But because of the desperation of getting aid to Ukraine, Democrats literally said, okay, y'all are hijacking this, but we don't have any other option. We're going to have to let y'all play y'all fool game. Handed it to them on a silver platter. Donald Trump said, whoa, if y'all fix this, y'all making Joe look good and me look bad. Now, anybody that doesn't know that Donald Trump cares more about how he looks than how the country looks, this is it. For those people, this is Exhibit A. For the rest of us, this is just another day that ends in Y. This is your exhibit that he cared more about Joe Biden looking bad than, oh man, X amount of people are crossing the border every day. All the border states. Now the blue states getting mad because DeSantis and Greg Abbott are sending people to blue states, and now they see what we've been dealing with. Okay, bet. We see it. It's a problem. Let's fix it. You want to do this? You want to do that? Okay, let's do it. We're ready. Let's go. And Trump says, nope, you better not do it. And all of these supposed people that have these positions, their ideology sat there, stood up, put it in the chair and sat on it and let the orange Julius tell them what to do with their ideology and their so-called outrage about the border. So my point is that if he can take these people that profess to be conservatives or hawks and all this other stuff and basically punt and sit on a plan that they have been waiting for decades so that he can look good, you mean to tell me that he can't sit there and crack enough of their balls to make them change the Constitution so that he don't ever have to leave the White House except for in a body bag and a hearse? Shit. Because basically all this time and all this tough talk about the border, we care about the border. I got two words for you: bull and shit. That's all it ever was. That's all it ever was. A lot of their policies come down to that, because if he tells you that, no, we ain't with that right now, then they change it. All because he doesn't want to look bad and he doesn't want his opponent to look good.
Well,
that's what he did. That's what he did.
Yes, yeah. They did. He did that because he actually wanted them to wait one more year for the border to blow up. And then with all of this that's going on, and then in addition to everything waiting with not getting the aid to the Ukraine and Israel and all of that way, and then Taiwan.
Not the Ukraine, just Ukraine.
Just Ukraine, excuse me. it's also making our allies and partners in Europe or this way looking at us like we're crazy because these people, and they also talk about, because I feel Trump is kind of aligned with Russia because he's one of his favorites, and they're laughing at us because we're all sitting here talking about, because they're seeing the ineffectiveness of these people that are just sitting there again. But the border is really important. All these people that are going to sit here and they're crossing the border and they're coming to get you, but you had it in your hands. You could have tried to fix it, but you chose not to. And now I think President Biden is now coming up with some emergency order to kind of fix what they decided not to vote on. Am I not correct?
Yes. And the problem with that was a lot of them sat on their hands and said, well, we don't need to really vote on this. If Biden really wanted to do anything, he could just implement a bunch of executive orders. Translation, we don't want to do our damn job, so we want him to just do temporary orders so that we don't have to make a decision. And because I don't want Trump to be mad at me because he'll send his supporters after me or they'll primary me. That's the translation of all of that. Now, here's the funny thing is that when Obama was sitting there doing executive orders left and right, he's not a king. Who does he think he is? He wore a tan suit and he thinks he's king, signing executive orders on everything. The whole point of Congress is to pass laws, not for him to sign things with the stroke of a pen. Now, why can't he just do an executive order? I mean, come on. It's like Jasmine Crockett said, man, y'all do so much spinning. I don't know how y'all stand up from all the spinning y'all do. Y'all should be on the ground. And she ain't lying. So to get into Trump's recent legal, we know that the E. Jean Carroll case, the E. Jean Carroll 1 case ended with a $5, he wished, $5 million judgment for his defamation against her. It was found in that suit that he did physically abuse her in the Berghoff Goodman store. And then he defamed her by saying that he didn't know her when there was proof that he did. Right after that decision, he went out and defamed her again. And Roberta Kaplan and the other lawyers sat there and took him right back to court and said to a jury, you're going to have to make it more than 5 million this time to encourage him to shut the hell up and take her name out of his mouth. So the jury, after hearing the evidence and watching the buffoonish show of his legal counsel not seemingly understand New York law, ended up awarding E. Jean an additional $83.3 million. Now, when he was cited for the $5 million, he was going to appeal the decision. But you just can't say I'm going to appeal the decision and the money doesn't move. What has to happen is once you are given a verdict of the $5 million, for example, you have a certain amount of time, normally 30 days, to pay the $5 million. Not once the decision's handled out, but once it's actually declared as a judgment, which could be a couple of days for the clerk to get it all typed out, and the judgment is actually filed from that filing date. You have 30 days to pay this money. The only way you can stop it from being paid those 30 days is for you to file an appeal. But you just can't say I'm gonna file an appeal. What you have to do, Lori, is you have to give the court the $5 million in escrow, or you have to pay a bond like you would if you were in jail, and you would have to pay a certain percentage of that bond to show that you're good for it. Well, in his first E. Jean Carroll, Trump paid the $5 million, but he also had to pay a little bit extra. Normally it's about 20%, but he paid, I think, 11% on top of the $5 million while he appeals it. The reason that they do that is because there's interest and other fees that may be attached to that $5 million. So you got to put that away too, because the likelihood that you will win your appeal is low. Could they reduce the amount that you owe? Yes. But is it likely that the appeal itself will be overturned to the point that you walk out not owing anything? No, absolutely not. So now that he has this $83.3 million judgment, and it's been 2 weeks now since the judgment was filed, he has 2 more weeks to come up with an $83.3 million bond plus 20%. Or he's going to have to send the clerk of court $83.3 million plus a little bit of extra. Now, he just got hit in the Arthur and Goron, Letitia James civil fraud case that cited overinflation of assets, persistent fraud, tax fraud, all those kind of things stemming from the Trump organization. Example, valuing his triplex in Manhattan and Trump Tower by 3 times too much because he said that the square footage was 33,000 square feet when it was only 10, or 30,000 and it was 10. He tripled it. He was actually cited to pay out a total of $355 million. Eric Trump, $4 million. Donald Trump Jr., $4 million. Alan Weisselberg, I think $1 million. And McConney, the COO or whatever his position was, another $1 million. Also, as part of that, Trump cannot do business in the state of New York for 3 years. I believe the 2 boys were done for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then Weisselberg and McConney, a permanent ban for doing any kind of financial business in the state of New York.
And also, he can't serve as a director or something, like he can't
serve be on any boards, anything like that.
Nothing.
None of that. Cannot be an officer for 3 years.
An officer.
And the other thing is they cannot obtain loans from any banks that are based in New York or are chartered in New York. Meaning that even if you don't have a headquarters in New York, but you are licensed and chartered in New York, they can't get loans from you either. So that is going to limit their ability to borrow money. Plus, for the last 18 months, they had also had a monitor, Judge Barbara Jones, retired Judge Barbara Jones, watching the money going in and the money going out. But at that point, she had limited powers where she could basically just come up with reports to say they're doing this and they're doing that, and they shouldn't be doing it. Judge Engeron delayed his decision because he was waiting for Judge Barbara Jones's final report that basically found that the persistent fraud still existed, that there were not measures in place to prevent other fraud. One thing is that once Alan Weisselberg went to Rikers Island, he ceased to be their chief financial officer. And that's been a while, right, Lori?
Absolutely.
Guess what? They never replaced him. So
no, they didn't.
So they still do not have a chief financial officer. And in her report, she basically said, well, hell, we don't have no CFO in place. Fraud is definitely something that can continue to happen because we have not put measures in place to prevent the fraud. We don't have the checks and balances in place. And what she also found is now they are not offering financial disclosure statements when doing business, even though some of the business that they're doing does require those said financial statements, because they did not want to have any documents out there where they were declaring assets being worth certain things when in reality they knew they weren't. I just want to clear up a thing for the viewers too. When you hear Donald Trump talking about the judge devaluing Mar-a-Lago, it's 50 to 100 times more than what they say, meaning that he's valuing Mar-a-Lago anywhere between $960 million and $1.6 billion. let me just give you guys an understanding real quick why that cannot be true. He will keep saying that Donald Trump, when he bought Mar-a-Lago, signed as part of the deed that it could not be used for residential because it was a club. It charged memberships. People were in and out of the place. When you have restrictions and covenants on and encumbrances, not covenants, encumbrances on a property like that, it changes the value because of the best use of the land. In real estate, you're always looking for the highest, Lori, and
highest
best.
and best use.
Right. Well, the highest and best use of that land will never be residential because it's not zoned to be residential. If it had been zoned to be residential, Trump is correct in the fact that it would be worth more than it is, but it still would not come to the tune of $1.6 billion. He and other appraisers agreed that the property was valued around $26 to $30 million. He paid taxes on $26 to $30 million. Did not get mad because of that, but says Judge Engoron is the one that valued it when that wasn't the case. The tax assessor for the state of Florida assessed it between $26 and $30 million. Engoron did not say that it was worth that. He just repeated what the Florida tax assessors have valued the property. It can never be worth 1.6 billion because it can never be a residential property like the other properties around it, thus capping its value because it's considered a business. So that should dispel all that. So when he tells you that, he's lying, and he knows he's lying because he's the one that signed the deed that basically put an encumbrance on the property for it to be a business. And as somebody that's a developer, he knows the difference between business valuations and residential valuations. And if he doesn't, then he's been faking it all these years, which is possible. He knows the values of his apartment buildings are one thing, and his values of his hotels and things like that are two totally different things. You don't value them the same way. You don't add more floors onto a building that you own because it changes the value of the building. They found persistent fraud in all of this. And then they hear Eric Trump, who's supposed to be the default leader of the Trump organization, saying that he had nothing to do with it. This didn't involve us. Dude, you were the damn CEO. What the hell are you talking about? And he on the in the deposition talking about, I don't know, I pour concrete, as if he ever touched any damn concrete. Number two, you're the CEO. You sign off on the statement of financial disclosure, which they showed him. You signed off on the statement of financial disclosure. How can you say you had nothing to do with this? The judge found none of them to be credible with their accounts. Ivanka wasn't credible either because she had memory problems when the prosecution asked her questions, and then her memory was okay when Alina Habba and the other lawyers for Trump asked questions. The other thing is that they all testified for Letitia James for her cross-examination, but when it was time for Trump's lawyers to do direct examination, Donald Trump, Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr. all opted not to testify on the stand to defend themselves and their company. Why? Because they would have committed perjury. That's why. They knew that they could not lie, so they refused to testify. So then the judge had to make inferences that you are refusing testimony because given said testimony could probably implicate you in the furtherance of a crime, which is why they didn't do it. I know I'm running over, but I'm gonna cap it off real good. So that's what's going on with that. So he and all those other people have been fined. Lori, here's the funny thing. Yes, it's $355 million, but with the interest on top of it, it's nearly $454 million. And interest is accruing on this judgment every day to the tune of $87,500 a day till he pays it. A day. In 10 days, he'll have $875,000 in interest. Multiply that out times 3, and that'll give you about $2.4 million per month. He doesn't pay it in interest. That's crazy. Interest. So, and here's the to-hoo-hoo. Even if it's on appeal, the interest clock keeps going anyway. It doesn't matter. So he says he's going to appeal it, but here's the funny thing. So you've got 454, you got 88.5 out there. Bro, you were almost at $500 million in penalties, and you'll be there soon with the interest. You got to put up a bond for all of that, but you've just been found liable of persistent fraud for overvaluing things. Who in their right damn mind gonna put up a bond for you to say that you good for it when you just got judged for fraud? The only other option he has is he's gonna have to pull it out of his pocket and put it in the escrow. But there's reportings out there that he only has about $400 million in cash. What makes you a billionaire a lot of times is not just the cash on hand that you have, but your assets. So you could have assets that total all those amounts, meaning that if I sold all my assets and got cash, this is how much money I would have. That's where your net worth comes from. It's not just out of cash, it's cash plus assets, minus any liabilities, any defaults, judgments, liens, all that kind of stuff. So the problem, Lori, is we don't know if the dude, he talking a good talk, but the judgment just got filed 3 days ago. So he's got 27 days. Excuse me. He's got 27 days to figure it out, because in 27 days, if he has not put up a bond, he's on the hook for the judgment. And my bestie, Letitia James, just came out the other day and said, hey, if he don't pay, we're going to start taking his shit. She said, 40 Wall Street, I see that every day, because she look out her window, she can see the 40 Wall Street building, and she done already made it clear. Yeah, I'm gonna take that one. We're gonna file an injunction with the judge where it's gonna make the sheriff be the provider to go over there, padlock 40 Wall Street, put a sign on it, auction that son bitch off, and start to recoup fees and stuff to go against that judgment. All of that can happen. He trying to put on a brave face right now. He just did his little town hall with Laura Ingraham and all that other stuff on Fox. And he trying to act like ain't none of that a reality. I don't think he has the money. And I think if he does get a bond, the only way I can see him getting a bond is somebody from Saudi Arabia then gave him some money and said, hey, when you win re-election, we're going to need you to do this and this and this. Because nobody else in their right mind is going to give him something if nothing has been promised. If somebody does do it, the question is going to be, what did he promise them? This is also why he's trying to bleed money from the Republican National Committee and have Lara Trump actually be a co-chair of the National Committee, because he's trying to get access to those funds. He even trying to hawk some gold ass Treason Force One shoes for $399 a pop. I don't know if you saw that, Lori. He's trying to sell some shoes now. They're gold and red. He was at Sneaker Con over the weekend trying to hawk these $399. I'll show it to you. He's trying to hawk these $399 sneakers that look like knockoff Air Force Ones that I think he calls them Trump Force Ones or something, like some shit, something stupid. They're ugly as hell. He wants $400 for them. He's still doing his NFT cards and all that kind of stuff. But he would have to sell a whole lot of shoes to be able to pay off that judgment. So he's trying to tap into the coffers of the Republican National Committee, which he can't. you know what's keeping them and messing them up though, Lori, from getting to that money more than anything?
What is it?
Nimrata Haley. Because until Nimrata drops out and makes him the bona fide nominee, he has to wait until he's secures enough delegates through all these primaries to be the eventual nominee. Until you're the nominee, you have no access to your party's committee funds. They can only help you financially once you are declared the nominee of their party. So as long as Nikki stays in the race and he doesn't have enough delegates to take it away from her, he can't access that money. How about that? And that ain't going to happen in 30 days. So he can't count on the RNC money to help bail him out of this. And the RNC is almost broke anyway. So there's another thing for that, because they've been paying his legal bills for the last 3.5 years anyway. So they've been bleeding out their money anyway. So all of that, y'all, we'll keep an eye on what's going on with that. I know I ran over, but I wanted to give y'all a good idea of what's going on in this case that just happened in New York, in addition to the 2 E. Jean Carroll verdicts for defamation. More judgments are on the way. He's also being sued by police and members of Congress because of what happened on January 6th. That case has been allowed to proceed after he said that he had immunity. They said no. The trial will end up picking up, and he could be on the hook for liability charges that will be even higher than what this judgment was from Judge Ngoran. So all of that to come. We'll keep you guys updated in that. Lori, thanks for giving me that little bit of extra time. We will see y'all again next week. Y'all take care. You ready? Peace.
This is ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta